What is the best 10 gigabit UniFi network setup for home users here in the middle of 2025? We had a ticket come into Rogue support last week and the guy was asking for us to design a 10 gigabit network for his home. He had a couple of Ugreen NAS devices and he had a 10 gig workstation, and he basically just wanted to make full use of his 10 gig equipment. So it got me thinking, what is the best 10 gig UniFi setup for home? And I think it's this right here. Let's talk about it. All right, starting with the gateway, this is the UCG-Fiber, and I think this is the best gateway to use for 10 gigabit connectivity to the rest of your network. So first and foremost, we've got 4 2.5 gigabit LAN ports here, and then we've got 2 SFP pluses, which are both 10 gigabit. Now, any port on this entire gateway can be turned into the WAN port. As you can see, I've got WAN written right here. So I'm actually using port 1 as the WAN port because I don't have a greater than gigabit internet connection. But if you did have a greater than gigabit internet connection, the UCG-Fiber supports up to 5 gigabits of throughput with IDS and IPS enabled. And I also like the fact that the UCG-Fiber has an M.2 storage slot right here on the side, meaning you can pop in a 1 or 2 terabyte NVMe drive for UniFi Protect storage. So you can buy it for $279 without any storage. And then if you want to upgrade and add a few cameras to your network later, you can then just pop in a 1 or 2 terabyte NVMe drive, and you're good to go with surveillance as well. So I'm using one of the SFP Plus ports to 10 gig connect over to the switch here. And this is just a 10 gig DAC cable, or direct attach copper cable. And the switch that I'm using is the Pro XG8 PoE. Now this was just released recently, which is kind of what brought this whole thing to mind, because this is a great little switch. So it's kind of pricey, it's $499, but what you get with this switch is 8 10 gig RJ45 ports. Every single one of those ports has PoE++ capability. You also get 2 10 gig SFP Plus ports on the side here. So that's what I'm using to uplink over to the gateway. And then you could plug in, a NAS, a 10 gig access point. We'll talk about that in a second, a 10 gig workstation, and you're still gonna have plenty of ports left over to either cross connect to another switch for devices that don't need 10 gig or for other 10 gigabit devices that you add in the future. I also like this thing because it is either desktop or wall mount form factor, so it's pretty versatile. It doesn't require, a 19-inch rack to install this thing into or anything like that. However, if you did want to save a few bucks, because again, this is $499. It's cool with the ether lighting and all that, but that's pretty expensive. So if you want to save a few bucks, you could also go instead with the USW Flex XG, which is $299. Now, the USW Flex XG isn't going to be able to PoE power an access point, but it can be powered up itself by the PoE Plus port, which is port number 4 here on the UCG-Fiber. So you could use the USW Flex XG, power it up with PoE from the gateway itself, and then you would have 4 10 gigabit RJ45 ports for your devices, for your non-PoE devices. But personally, I like having all of the PoE++ power and the PoE++ capability of this switch here, because for the access point, I'm going with the U7 Pro XG. And there's a number of reasons for this. I really like this access point a lot. It does have 10 gigabit connectivity over to the network switch. You can see here my ether lighting is white, which is the indication for 10 gigabit. But I also like this thing because it's this new form factor. So it's still circular, but it's kind of flat faced, unlike the sort of more bulbous older access points. And the story goes, when UniFi or when Ubiquiti was creating their enterprise lineup of access point, the E-series access points, their engineers learned a lot when they were building that higher, the highest line of access points for Ubiquiti. And they took a lot of what they learned from building those high-end devices and they put it into this one right here, into the XG. So you get sort of the latest and greatest engineering technology in this device, including like a full metal back and stuff like that. And it's only $10 more than the U7 Pro, which only has a 2.5 gigabit network port on the back. So it's kind of a no-brainer, right? If you were thinking about Wi-Fi 7, you were looking at the U7 Pro, you might as well spend an extra $10 and get this one instead. In my opinion, this is a much better value. All three of these together come to $977. Then you'd have to get a DAC cable as well. So you figure just about $1,000 for this setup right here. And you'll have a really, really nice 10 gigabit home network with full PoE capability across all of these ports. All right, so that's my opinion on a 10 gig home network. What's your opinion on a 10 gig home network? Let me know down in the comments below. And of course, I will have a link to this specific setup also down in the description so you can check it out and even play around with it. That's gonna be the UI product selector, which is like PC part picker for UniFi equipment, allows you to play around with different configurations and then save those configurations and share them with your friends, family, and coworkers. All right, hope you guys enjoyed this video and we'll see you in the next one.